The 2022 E450 all-terrain for the 2022 model year, at least here in the United States. This is the last wagon standing in the Mercedes lineup. So a moment of silence for the much-loved E63 S-Wagon and the regular E-Class wagon. And in its place is this thing. Its only direct competitor is the A6 Allroad, and much like that vehicle, this is a slightly lifted version of the regular E-Class wagon with some nice black plastic overfenders to give this thing a real tough exterior presence. The one interesting thing about this car is it's in fact a 3-row wagon. Yes, you can fit up to 7 of your friends in this car. And I will say this, the 3rd row, according to the Geneva Convention, should only be used for children. It is tiny. The real benefit of this body style is the cargo capacity. You can get up to 64 cubic feet worth of crap in this vehicle with the 2nd row folded down, which rivals any small SUV like a BMW X7, Mercedes GLC, or a Audi Q7. And that's why you buy this thing. You have none of the compromises when it comes to dynamics of an SUV and all of the benefits of a very large vehicle when it comes to hauling all your crap and your friends. The interior space is a direct carryover of basically every other E-Class, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. The main thing is it's quiet, you have good visibility, the seats are excellent, everything sadly is still a la carte, and I mean everything. You want heated seats, you're paying for those. You wanted cooled seats, you're paying for that. You can get massaging seats in this car, which I highly recommend. The Burmeister audio system is pretty decent. You can get acoustic glass, which will really quiet up this cabin further, and this has the last generation of Mercedes infotainment, which in some ways is better than what's found in the current generation stuff, like the S-Class and the Mercedes SL. Yes, it's a mind-boggling mess of touch, haptic, physical, and touchpad controls. But if you stick with the core physical controls for HVAC and the touch controls on the screen, you can get by without pulling out all your hair. So with that said, I think it's time for us to head into the shop and put this thing up on the lift. Mark, we're underneath a Mercedes-Benz. This is yet another E-Class we're doing a video on.
How many different E-Classes are there?
Like 5 million. No, sadly there are less than there used to be because the E63S, both in wagon and sedan form, is gone. In fact, all their wagons are gone other than this thing.
This is it?
Yes, this is it, Mark.
You just get a nice CUV, front-wheel drive. It's got less space than a regular car. That's all you need. So what do people really need to know about this, Jack?
It's an E-Class. It's the current generation E-Class. That's all you need to know. It has the same suspension architecture. It's just slightly heavier, has air ride, and it's a big luxury boat. Exactly what you want.
What's the engine code? W1234? Or is that the chassis code?
That's the chassis code.
Okay, well.
I don't remember what their engine code is. I'm sure it's something along those lines, but it's their inline 6 with their electric supercharger and their mild hybrid system.
Okay. So this is their volume engine pretty much, or
in their premium sedans and larger vehicles, this is their new volume engine.
And what's the trans?
It's their 9-speed auto.
Okay, so it's the same stuff that we've seen before. So really, why would you choose this? Other than, I mean, it's basically an E-Class, but it's stretched.
So here's my argument for wagons, and this is the argument that a lot of people have for them. You are taking a regular sedan and just making them larger, and you don't have the sacrifices you have to make when you get an SUV. For an engineer, when you lift a chassis, the suspension geometry becomes more compromised, and it's going to struggle with the added mass and the added ride height. Theoretically, at least in a wagon, you don't have those issues.
Well, this is an all-road. Isn't this already a lifted-up car?
Yeah, because no one in America seems to understand that you can get a regular wagon without unpainted black plastic over on the over-fenders.
Oh, God. Well, Jack, you know what? I'm cashing out of this one. I can't wait. I got my Chevy Trax in the shop. I just did a fresh ceramic coat on it. And I'm doing a 2-tone top, so ooh. I'm going to drive that. You drive this.
All right, sounds good. E450 all-terrain, and because Mark refuses to be in something that is not a coupe SUV, I'll be doing this alone. We're in Sport Plus. Time for some launch control. Well, not real launch control. First things first, this inline 6 is excellent. It returns great fuel economy, it has a ton of torque, and it pulls hard to redline. It is not as special feeling as the B58, and this engine and trans combo is nowhere as smooth, but it does a good job, and it definitely feels like it's out of something that is rather expensive. And this is a very expensive car. As tested, we're almost at $80,000, and this does not have every option available. Next thing to bring up is ride quality. To be honest, this feels like every other E-Class with some air ride. Yes, this is the all-terrain, and as we talked about in the shop segment, it has been lifted to accommodate some more off-road capability, but when you put this thing back into comfort, it is extremely smooth. It's basically a boat, and it's something you're going to pile a lot of miles on, throw your family in. It's exactly what you want. It is a very quiet, refined feeling automobile. So would I buy this over an A6 all-road? And that, at least in the United States, is the only real natural competitor I can think about. And it comes down to whether or not you want to sacrifice drivetrain for a better interior space and even more refined ride. I think the all-road rides better than this. It has a far less gimmicky interior, and for the most part, I think it's a much less frustrating car to live with. The infotainment in the Mercedes-Benz is not the best. I haven't had a lot positive to say about it, and I think it doesn't dampen out the road imperfections the same way the Audi does. But you get a much better drivetrain, a more special, expensive feeling engine. This inline six is smoother than the Audi's 3-liter, and there's no qualms about it. That is the absolute truth. The rear-wheel drive architecture of this Mercedes E-Class platform also, I feel like, is a little bit sharper when you put it back in a Sport Plus. The A6 all-road always feels like a boat, and when you, well, of course I'm in traffic, but when you decide to actually hustle this E-Class, it does a better job hiding its weight. You never feel like you're in an E63 Wagon or a more dedicated sports saloon, but it does do a good job in firming itself up and hiding some of its mass. That said, its inputs, whether it be the steering, the feedback you get from the car, even the way the brake pedal feels, there's just a layer of disconnection from any feedback in this car, which is a little bit disappointing, but that's the price you pay for a executive feeling wagon. So with that, I think it's time for us to head back into the shop and get into the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the E450 all-terrain. This is a hyper niche vehicle for someone who refuses to buy an SUV. And I get it. This doesn't have any of the body or ride control compromises that a SUV makes, but this thing is a boatload of money. I can't believe that there are currently more SUV coupes on the market than dedicated wagons, and that is just the sad state of affairs that we live in today, at least here in the United States. So what do you think about the car itself? Well, it rides well, it's very, very quiet, and it has a great engine. This inline six is very refined, and sadly BMW does not build a wagon with the B58 in this market, so it's really your only choice for an inline six. However, the gearbox is not as sharp as the ZF 8-speed found on the Audi, and the interior space is far more frustrating. But at the end of the day, it's a decision that you have to make when you go and cross-shop these products. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.